Today, guys, we are talking about nerves. What we already talked about in our previous lecture was neurons. Now, that was way before Christmas, so let's do a little refresher. Neurons are the cells of your nervous system, right? The individual cells and how they work, all the dendrites and the cell body and the axon terminal, myelin sheath, all that stuff. Nerves are the tissue. It's a bundle of cells, a bundle of neurons, and you are looking at a real bundle of neurons. Every individual little string that you are seeing is going to be a probably actually a group of axons. So you're not even seeing one axon. This is probably more like a couple axons bound together. So we have a lot of them all interconnected, and the axon terminals all touching the different dendrites and interconnecting and touching different ones. So one axon terminal may be able to communicate with a bunch of different dendrites of different cells. They're all grouped together. That makes things a little bit more complicated. So we are going to pan out. Now we're going to zoom out and look at a bigger picture here. Sensory nerves. Now remember, we talked about different kinds of neurons. We said we have sensory neurons, we have motor neurons, we have interneurons, right? Kind of the same deal here. Sensory nerves are made out of sensory neurons. So just like what the sensory neurons did, where they read the environment, they gather information, and then they send it off to the brain or the spinal cord. The sensory nerves are all of those neurons together. So this is reading the environment. It's going to carry this impulse, this information to the central nervous system, the brain and spinal cord. So this is good reacting. I shouldn't say respond, I should say react. It's reacting to the environment. You touch something with your hand, your skin feels it, right? No, wrong. Your skin doesn't feel anything. Your skin is just epithelial tissue. The nerves in your skin feel it. And they're sending the information to your brain, and then your brain becomes aware of it, and that's when you really feel it. And then we get motor neurons. Once you want to know what you want to do about a problem, whatever you touch, maybe you touched a hot pan, you put your hand on the stove and the stove was still hot, right? That's a problem that you have to fix. How do you fix it? Simple. You move your hand, right? No, first your brain has to tell your muscles to move your hand. And that's what your motor neurons are doing. Your brain comes up with a decision, hey, stupid, move your hand. And that information spreads out to the muscles in your arm that make you move your hand away. Your brain comes up with a decision, but the motor nerves are the ones sending that information out. What we are going to talk about within these nerves are two things: reflexes and reactions. Reflexes and reactions, right? What are these? Reflexes are autonomic. We learned this word yesterday. Autonomic means automatic. Involuntary, guys. You do not have a choice in this. This is completely subconscious. Your mind, you're not deciding it. Part of your brain that you don't control comes up with a decision. Usually it's not even your brain. Usually it doesn't get that far. It's your spinal cord, right? Your spinal cord can handle some of these reflexes on its own. Most of your reflexes, really. So what's going to happen? How does a reflex work? Step one, an environment is going to stimulate the sensory nerve. The sensory nerves are going to be in your arm or your hand, wrists. I think I have it. Yeah, wrist. And the stimulation is going to be heat. So you are now cooking your skin. You're burning yourself. So the sensory nerve in this area is going to send a signal to the spinal cord. Remember, your spinal cord is made out of the same stuff as your brain. Your spinal cord can make decisions. You're not consciously aware of it. You're not thinking with your spinal cord, but some decisions are made. Involuntary decisions. So it goes to your spinal cord, and then your spinal cord comes up with that decision and sends that decision out through the motor nerves to all the muscles in your arm, and then the muscles move the body away to safety. All of that, guys, took place like that, right? That was almost instant. You felt the burn and you moved, right? Another example is when the doctor hits your knee. I don't think doctors do this anymore, but they used to have a tiny little hammer and they would hit a nerve in just above your kneecap, and that would make your knee kick out. Or, like I just showed you here, you burn your hand, you move your hand away. Ever notice that, guys? If you can burn yourself, you touch a hot stove or you touch something really hot and your hand jumps away. I don't know if you ever noticed this. Maybe it's just me, but my hand moves before I even know I got burnt. Like, I don't feel the pain until my hand's like all the way in the air already. Because your spinal cord actually comes up with the decision to move away, and then the information continues to your brain, and your brain goes, hey, that hurt. It takes a little extra time. Right. So here's that same reflex, just really quick. Information in through the sensory nerves. Spinal cord makes a decision, sends it back out through the motor nerves, and your muscles move. And none of that information actually reached your brain. You are not consciously aware. This happens so fast that by the time the information does reach your brain, you've already moved. Time to organize. All of your nerves, right, across your entire body can be separated out into two groups. Group 1 is the central nervous system, and group 2 is the peripheral nervous system. Right? Central and peripheral. The central nervous system is shown here in the reddish pink. Your brain and your spinal cord. That's it. I say that's it like it's no big deal. Guys, you got more neurons in your brain than you do in the rest of your body. This is all of your thinking. Super important, but not a lot of detail yet. We're going to talk about the brain later. All of this blue is known as the peripheral nervous system. Writing stuff down, by the way, guys, these words are very big, so I may start writing CNS for central nervous system and PNS for peripheral nervous system, just to make it up a little bit easier. In the peripheral nervous system, these are the nerves that are not your brain or spinal cord. They're literally everything else. So no thinking involved. All the thinking is in the central nervous system, and this is just information spreading. This is your information superhighway. You touch something hot, the information comes up to your sensory nerves in the peripheral nervous system. And then your brain decides, or your spinal cord decides to move away, it comes back through the motor nerves in the peripheral nervous system. So all that blue is peripheral. In that peripheral nervous system, what we read in yesterday's text pages is we can separate this further, right? And no, not just sensory and motor, all right? We actually can separate it in a different way. Another way to separate this is between somatic and autonomic. Somatic are the things that you do control, all right? You decide to move your muscles if you want to. Now, you want to, right now, I don't know if you guys can see me right now, I'm spinning like a little doodad around my hand. I'm not sure if I'm visible on this recording, but I'm choosing to do that. So I am using my somatic motor nerves and making that happen. Autonomic nervous system is the stuff that you do not control. This is completely involuntary. So my brain is telling my heart to beat. And it is sending that through my autonomic motor nerves. Now, I'm not aware of it. I'm not deciding it. I can't choose to start and stop my heart. Can you imagine if I forgot to make my heart beat? You're dead in a couple seconds. No, your brain's going to handle this on its own. Right? Your autonomic nerves do this. Same thing with reflexes. Reflexes, you didn't choose for your knee to kick forward when the doctor hit you. You didn't choose to move your hand when you got burnt. Right? Those were reflexes, autonomic. Which, time to get morbid, but have you ever seen any like horrible graphic horror movies? And you'll notice like if someone's arm gets chopped off, sometimes the arm is still twitching on the ground even though it's not attached to the body. That's because the autonomic nerves are still firing. They're still sending commands. So even though there's no body there, there's no one to decide to move, there's involuntary nerves are still making the muscles do things. So there's a little flow chart to help you get all that information, all right? We got your nervous system. Your nervous system can get separated into the central nervous system or the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system, I could actually separate this further, brain and spinal cord, but we're not talking about that right now, so I didn't. Your peripheral nervous system gets separated into somatic nerves or autonomic nerves, the stuff that you do control and the stuff that you don't control. Now, I could have a whole bunch of different branches for this. Basically, any decision you have is going to be a different branch. So I'm not going to list all that. That's too many. Autonomic nervous system can actually get separated further. The stuff that you don't control, we have two basic categories of the stuff that you do not control. This is brand new words, by the way. This is not in the notes. These are not in yesterday's reading, no worksheet stuff. This is the first time you're seeing this, so pay attention. Make sure you study this flowchart too. Your autonomic, your involuntary nervous system is separated into sympathetic or parasympathetic. Out of all the stuff you don't control, sympathetic is the stuff that handles your fight or flight, all right? The stuff that when you are in danger and it's time for you to get hype, it's time for you to get energized, that's your sympathetic nervous system. Why is it called sympathetic? Because you're in danger and your nervous system feels bad for you. It's feeling sympathy for your plight, right? So if you're in danger, someone's attacking you, your sympathetic nervous system is to start releasing all those hormones. It's going to make your heart beat faster so that you can get more oxygen to your muscles. It's going to give you the fear response so that you know that you're in danger. It's going to make you want to run or fight. It's going to make you angry. Yeah, anger is in there, guys. This is going to help keep you alive when you're in danger. But you don't want to be like that all the time, right? When you get into safety, it's time for you to cool down, time to relax. So another chunk of nerves in your autonomic nervous system activate. These deactivate and these activate. The parasympathetic nervous system is going to help you relax. Okay, I'm safe now. Well, it's going to make your heart slow down. It's going to make you feel not angry anymore. Right? It's going to help you chill out and relax. You can kick back on the couch. You know, if your sympathetic nervous system is going, you don't want to be on the couch. You hate the couch. Screw that couch. But your parasympathetic nervous system activates. That couch is the greatest thing in existence. I love this couch. I want to live on this couch. All right? That's the difference between the two. Now let's talk more about your central nervous system. I'm not going to talk too much about the brain today because I got a whole different chunk of notes for the brain. Brain's pretty complicated. But the spinal cord, this extends downward from the brain. Same material as your brain, so decisions are made, and it is going to be sending out information to different chunks of your body. Now, if you remember, when we talked about the skeleton, the vertebrae, we separated this vertebrae, this backbone, into different sections. We got the cervical vertebrae, the thoracic vertebrae, the lumbar vertebrae, and then we got the sacrum and the coccyx, right? Remember all that? Well, notice there are gaps. There are spaces. In here, your spinal cord is protected, but in the openings, that's where nerves, peripheral nerves come in and out to the spinal cord. So these sections are going to different sections of your body. Your first section is known as cervical. If you remember, you have 7 cervical vertebrae, and you got nerves coming out under each bone, right? So you should have 7 nerves as well. Well, actually 8 because you have one at the top as well. So 8 sets of cervical nerves. And then you have 12 thoracic bones, so you're going to have 12 thoracic nerves. 5 lumbar bones, 5 sets of lumbar nerves. You get the idea. We said there were 5 bones, and we questioned why these count as 5 bones. They're fused together because there are 5 sections for the nerves to still come out. And then the coccyx, it was 4 bones, but they're really tiny, so there's only enough space for 1 nerve to come out. So those are where all the nerves exit and start spreading across your entire body. All the green is peripheral nerves. Right. And each section of your spinal cord, we're back to spinal cord now, central nervous system, it is going to have different areas we call gray matter and white matter. So again, we're looking at the vertebrae. This is your back, this is the front, the anterior side, the posterior side, and then that space where nerves are. Let's get rid of the bone and just look at the nerve itself, right? We got gray matter, which for some reason is listed as green in this picture. I didn't color it in, it should be more gray. That is where all of the synapses are. That is where dendrites and axon terminals are interconnecting and communicating and sending information. And then, so decisions are being made here. And then surrounding that is white matter. Those are just axons, right? So you got cell bodies here with dendrites, and the axons come out, and they can wrap around and have axon terminals over here, or maybe to further down. So different parts of your spinal cord can communicate with other parts of your spinal cord. By the way, your brain is reversed. In your brain, the gray matter is on the outside and the white matter is on the inside. So you're actually thinking with the outside of your brain. Your spinal cord is thinking in the center. And then you got a pair of spinal nerves coming out. Those are the peripheral nerves going in and out. When I said you had like the cervical ones, you had 8 cervical, you have 8 pairs of cervical nerves. One on the pair on this side, some on this side. And these spinal nerves are going to be made out of a combination of sensory and motor. So sensory is going to come in one side, motor is going to come out and rejoin the spinal nerve. On the test, you will probably have to label this, and to be fair, I probably won't expect you to remember which side is sensory and which side is motor because they look the same, all right? I just want you to know that these together are the sensory and motor nerves. I'm not going to be picky about which one is which. Now, cool little fact, your spinal cord has 2 enlarged areas, right? This and this are the same thing. This is like facing front. And you'll notice that it's kind of bulgy right here. And then further down, bulgy right here again. What you're looking at are the cervical area. So this is in your neck. So this part is actually inside your head. This is your neck. And then down here is your lumbar. So your cervical, your thoracic's actually pretty thin. We call this the cervical enlargement and the lumbar enlargement. Why are these so thick? Because, notice it, in the neck, from here, all those spinal nerves are going to start spreading out to your upper limbs. And then your lumbar, all these nerves are going to start spreading out to your lower limbs. So you have a lot of extra material so they can start spreading outward. And one last thing, because people always ask me about this, getting paralyzed. We've talked about this before in your last set of notes as well. When you get paralyzed, there's actually typically nothing wrong with the body part that doesn't work. Like if you're paralyzed from the waist down, you can't move your legs. Normally, there's nothing wrong with your legs. The bones are fine, the muscles are fine. The problem is they're not receiving a message from the brain. The brain says move, but the message doesn't get there. That means there's something wrong in between the brain and the legs. Right? And there are different kinds of paralysis depending on where the injury is. So if you're injured, say right here, between the L1 and L2, remember guys, we named the individual vertebrae? This is a lumbar, so L. This is the first one, so it's L1, this is L2. If you're injured around the L1, L2 vertebrae and you damage the spinal cord in there, information stops. Your brain says, move your legs, 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 and boom, information can't go further because of the injury. Then that information doesn't reach the legs. So from here down, nothing. If you're injured further up at around the T6, T7, T for thoracic, then around your abdomen, that's where the information stops. So nothing around here works. And now like you can't even go to the bathroom on your own. You have like a bag attached with a catheter. Further up, around C6, so injury in the lower neck, then like you can't even move your arms anymore. You can maybe lift your shoulders up, you can bob your head. Any further up, you may not even be able to move your head. So depending on where the injury is, creates the different kinds of paralysis. All right, and that is where I'm calling it. Ladies and gentlemen, right now on Google Classroom, you have an assignment. What time is it? This is third period. All right, cool. So you got, this class ends at 11:10. It's about 5 minutes. I didn't think this lecture would take that long. I thought I was going pretty quick. I guess I was wrong. But it's actually a really short assignment. You can probably get it done in the next 5 minutes. If not, that's fine. It's not due until 4 o'clock anyway, all right? And then Tomorrow is Wednesday, so I'll make a recording going over the answers. I'll post that later today. Right now, work on that assignment, and I will check it out later today.